Yo, 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 what is up, you guys? So today we're going to talk about some strings. So last week I mentioned we were going to work on some strings, so let's get into that. So right here I have Sylenth strings going on ahead. Let me just kind of make this a little bigger, and that last sentence totally didn't make any sense, but that's alright. Alright, so basically we're going to do something sort of like this. I'll just play you an example. So that's just one of the kinds of stringy type sounds you can basically make with Sylenth. You can make them really in any synth. Strings are really just kind of very similar to making like saws. You just kind of shape the envelopes a little bit differently and just apply filtering in a different way. So here's a few different other ones, just so I can kind of show off some more presets from the bank that I'm going to release probably next week or this week, hopefully. And I'll just go into the next bank now, because I have more in there. So this one's like my favorite one that I've made. So I actually think we'll make something like that one that I mentioned was my favorite one, something that, you know, is kind of more low. So these are pretty easy to make, so I'll just go ahead and quickly make one. And explain sort of the things that what I really do. So you really need only two oscillators, but if you want to use the part B or more oscillators, you can do that. But usually I'll start off with at least one oscillator, and then if I feel like adding, one side, and then if I feel like adding the other two oscillators and filters, then I'll do that. So, you know, polyphony just up all the way. We're gonna put a little bit of slide on this. I think that's important for string sounds. You really want to think about how strings act in real life. So you kind of, you know, I used to play violin in like 4th grade, and, you know, really you got to slide to notes or that's kind of a style. So I like to apply a little bit more portamento there and slide, and then bend range, of course, you know, for all that pitch bending stuff. And then, of course, just let's feel it out with 8 voices. You know, usually now I always used to crank things to 8 voices right away, but now I'm kind of like starting off at 1, 2, gradually just kind of feeling it out. So that way, when you detune stuff, you can really find a sweet spot in the voicing or the amount of voices that you're detuning and all that. But I think right here is a good ballpark, around 2. Maybe let's bring it down to 5. Just keep it a little bit more subtle. We'll maybe just copy this one and bring it down an octave, and then maybe detune it a little bit more, or add another voice. I should really be hearing this as I do it, so let's just hear this already. So it's already kind of there, so let's now add some decay, no sustain here, release, let's go halfway, and then maybe a little bit less than that. So I kind of just like to apply a little bit of attack as well. So the strings, you know, they just kind of feel like they come more in. So let's hear that. And it should be mentioned that what I'm playing here, get out of the way, Sylenth, is kind of, you know, all over the place. You know, the notes, actually I need to fix this screen again. The notes are kind of like, there's a low bottom line, and then there's a top line, and, you know, kind of just a direct octave higher of the low line. So this is kind of very like ideal for strings. So that's just something to keep in mind. And so let's kind of fix the screen again. So let's get it even better this time. Let me fix that. Oh, that's even bigger than last time. That's perfect. So, let's see. Where was I? Okay, can't move Sylenth. So, let's apply a low pass. Let's try the 24 dB slope. I usually like to start there, and if I feel like it's just not living enough, then I open it up to a much to 12 dB slope, which will allow more frequencies to go through. So let's just listen to that. usually reso never really works on strings. Really kind of makes it, reso really doesn't fit into sounding like a string thingy, so usually I don't mess around with that. The filter is actually good right there. You can open it up if you want, but that's really as far as I need to do. Usually the key tracking is what's going to really bring in the higher frequencies, depending on what you're playing, so usually I just leave it to that. Of course, a little bit of EQ would be good to just cut out. Maybe if you want to boost or cut lows, that's up to you. If you really want to make it sound like a low string, then boost a little bit or cut a little bit, depending on what you want to do there. So I'll get around 300, 250, and just bring it down a bit. Add a little bit treble around 1K, a little bit. So really just to bump it up. So something like this. But without the EQ, it sounds so warm, and with the EQ, we're making it a little bit brighter, and I'm not sure if that's something I like. I definitely have patches where I've made bright strings and then warm strings, so EQ is a really good way of doing those kind of things. So I think we'll leave it like this, or whatever. Really do it to your taste. A little bit of reverb, of course. I like to add the pre-delay around 150 milliseconds, so that way by the time most notes stop, or when you play something short, it feels like the reverb is catching up. So it kind of feels like that thing of when you send a reverb to a send, and then you add a compressor following the main signal, and you get that reverb kind of sidechain effect. This can feel a little bit like that, but with pre-delay, because we're just throwing it so far back that when the note stops, hopefully that reverb catches up. So you really notice that more with plucks, because plucks are really short, and then there's a lot more pauses sometimes in the arrangement, and then it just feels like the reverb catches up. See what I mean? Like if we just play the note halfway and then stop it, we'll notice the reverb just coming along. And if we didn't have pre-delay, it would just be right there. Not as interesting. So you could even push it all the way back, see how that sounds. But I feel like that's a little bit too late. So we'll keep it around there. You can dampen it a little bit if you want. Delays up to you. I really don't like delays on strings personally, but it's up to you. So then let's see where the volume's at on this. Okay, it's fair. I like to make sure I'm not in the red in Sylenth, just because I don't like plugin distortion. You can get plugin distortion in any plugin except for limiters, and sometimes even in crappy ones you might. So let's see what else. Really, this is really simple. So now if we wanted to be fancy, since we're not using part B, we could just copy this, paste it in here, copy the same exact envelope from part A. I actually learned something pretty cool about Sylenth. I didn't know. I thought when you copy paste things that you could only do one thing at a time, but it turns out if I want to copy an oscillator copy and the amp envelope copy a filter, and then go over here and just start pasting all those in, those will all work. So as long as you're not, you can have as many copy paste things going on as possible. It's so long as you're not overriding them with newer ones. So I used to think I could only copy paste the filter, then I'd have to go to the other part, come back, copy paste the oscillator. You don't have to do that, so that's kind of cool. So where was I? Okay, so maybe what we could do is maybe brighten this string up a bit, detune it a lot more. We could play around phasing, but retrig is kind of important too. So you notice I left all the retrigs on. That's because I need them to start the same way every single time, because if they're just not on retrig and they're just kind of starting in random spots every time, we can kind of lose that stringy feel. So it's actually kind of up to you. It might be cool to actually have this one not on the retrig and then a little bit higher up, a little bit more detuned. We don't really need, everything we're doing here doesn't matter, because as you see, the mix B is all the way down. So now I'm going to go in part A, and we'll just hear that part B through the filter A. So we're just going to add the input of A and B into this. So let's just listen to that, see how that sounds. we could probably lower the volume on that. So that's pretty warm, pretty cool, pretty easy to do. So really it's just a bunch of saws. You know, you kind of have to detune them a little bit, but not too much so that you're not getting that like detuned lead saw sort of sound, and keep it kind of warm, you know, with the filtering. And the reason you don't need to filter out the top end if you really don't want it. It actually sounds kind of nice when it's nice and bright. So if we take this off, then you could just use EQ to cut out those really piercing higher frequencies. But the reason why I like to apply filters is because you know, you can add the warm drive and drive to this, and it really makes it nice. So it's kind of weird that I didn't do that already, but let's do that. Wow, so that one's actually really nice. I think I'm actually going to keep this one for the bank and just make more sounds. So I have about 40, I just have about 40 or 50 presets left, and I'm done with this. And then I go retweak everything in the first bank. So everything in here is from the free bank, but I decided to just add 2 more pages of presets to this bank. So there's like 187 new presets, and I'm going to go retweak all the old ones, make them really much better than what they were. So I'm already done with the third bank. So this is just a typical 64 preset bank. It's all organized by bass and leads and strings and perk and pad and all that. And page 2 is just nonsense. It's just whatever sound I felt like making in just a random order. So that's kind of what I like about this page. You'll find cool stuff in here, but you don't know where it is. And then bank 3, I was like, okay, I have to organize presets for people. So let me know what you guys want before I finish this, so I can start adding in everything. I've added in almost every sound I can think of. Everything from percussion, sequence stuff, acidy bass, normal tech bass, like everything. Super saws, leads, square waves, type leads, drones, like FX, risers. I mean, I'm almost like, I'm not out of ideas. I'm just like, what else have I not done? So you guys need to give me some ideas. So when I release this bank, you guys, you know, it's also some of your input as well. So thanks guys for watching. Of course, really easy tutorial as always, and not much else to say. So thanks for watching, and lates.